Do you know what it's like to be invisible? I've always been like that. In class, during recess, at home, they looked at me like I was nothing, but they never paid attention. You wouldn't have noticed me either. I was an ordinary schoolboy until I realized what it was like to kill. It all started when I was just tired. Tired of no one noticing, no one hearing. I remember the first time I felt this feeling, warm, like a flame inside me. I was sitting in class, looking at my classmates and thinking, why are they all so stupid? Oh, I didn't want to kill them right away. I just wanted them to understand. I wanted them to remember me. At first, I tried to be careful. The first victim was random. I didn't even think it would be so easy. I just chose her, the one sitting at the back of the class, the quiet girl who always laughed at my mistakes. I remember sitting there at night, thinking about killing her, like it was just a game where I became important. I waited thinking that everything would remain a secret, but when you kill, you become different. You see the world through new eyes. You know, like you've suddenly become part of something bigger, something that no one else can understand. This feeling of power, control, I felt like the whole world around me was mine. Then others started showing up, those who didn't notice me either, those who laughed. And then I couldn't stop. Everything that was happening seemed natural, like I'd always been a killer. I wasn't afraid. No, I was free. And you know what's the strangest thing? I don't feel guilty. It's paradoxical. Killing is like art for me. Each new murder is like a new step in a game that I've won. People start noticing how people disappear, how something is wrong, but they don't understand who I am. Nobody understands what I do. I am just a shadow. I am someone no one will notice until it is too late. I left traces, but I always hid them. The journals that belonged to me became my assistants. They were my true friends. They told me who was next and how I should act. Sometimes I feel like I am not just a person, but something more. Something I cannot control, but I like it. You might ask yourself, why did you do this? Why did I need to do this? Simply why? Because I can. Because in this world where no one sees me, I became who I am, and no one can stop me. So if you ever feel like no one notices you, that you are invisible, remember one thing. Sometimes it means that you are ready to become someone everyone will be afraid of. If you want to know who I really am, you already know me. You just don't want to admit it. I am among you, and I will be there when you don't expect me, because I am always there. They started looking for me when the third one disappeared. That's when it all started in earnest. Sirens at night, patrols outside the school, security at the entrance. I watched it all from the crowd, with the same bored expression on my face as the others. No one looked at me. No one wondered, what if it wasn't someone from the outside? What if the killer was among us, among the students? The third one was special. He was the one who beat me in the toilets, took away my food, called me a creature. When I slit his throat behind the gym, I felt not fear, but relief. His eyes looked at me, full of horror, finally looking, for the first time in my life. And then I understood. Fear makes people honest. Only before death do they see me for real. Only then do I become real. After that, everything became easier. I started planning. I already knew what day the teachers held meetings, where there were no cameras, who came to school early. I made lists, drew maps, calculated every move. I had no friends, but I had goals. Each of them had a reason. Someone laughed, someone played the hero, someone was just too loud. In the world I lived in, you paid for it with blood. Time passed and fear settled in the school. Teachers whispered, parents pulled their children out. This only made me happy. I felt like a god. In this small world, I ruled life and death. I decided who would leave and who would stay. Sometimes I would come home, look at myself in the mirror and smile. There was no longer that pathetic boy who no one noticed. There was me, the real me. But fame is a strange thing. It attracts attention, and I don't need it. When the new principal came in, with a hard look and connections in the police, I knew the game was changing. He sensed something. He looked into the eyes of every student, as if searching. He came up to me one day, put his hand on my shoulder and said, If you know something, tell us. We all need the truth. I looked into his eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I felt cold. He looked right through me, as if he knew. I started making mistakes. I started rushing. One of the victims was found too quickly. The second one, I didn't have time to hide properly. The noise began to grow, and inside me there was panic. Not real fear, but anger. At them. At the fact that they were getting in my way. I knew that they would find me soon. But you know what I realized? I didn't care. Because everything I wanted, I had already done. They will remember me. They will write articles about me. I will be in their nightmares. I am writing this now in a notebook that I will hide under the board in the classroom. Maybe they will find it. Maybe they won't. But if you are reading this, it means that you are looking for answers. You want to know why I became like this? I will tell you. I did not become like this. I have always been. You just did not look. You look only when there is blood on the floor. And when someone is crying in the corner of the classroom, you pass by. I am not an exception. I am your reflection. You raised me with your indifference, with your silence, with your looks through. So, look more closely now. Who is sitting next to you? Who is silent when everyone is laughing? Who is walking alone down the hallway? He does not cry. He does not complain. But he has already chosen. And maybe he has already started. Do you think that all this is just like that? That people like me are born suddenly? Number, we are created. They shape us over the years. We are a product of our environment. I didn't wake up one day and say, today I'm going to be a murderer. It was slow, quiet, drop by drop. And each drop was someone's mockery, a punch in the face, a betrayal, a teacher's indifferent look, a mother tired of life, a father who left. All of them, they cut me apart until only a shell remained, empty, but with rage inside. I learned to wear a mask, a kind boy, a quiet student, a helper in biology class. I looked at people and learned to imitate them, learned to smile, to joke, to look into their eyes. You wouldn't understand that there was emptiness inside. Even when I sat opposite the school psychologist, she looked at me and said, "You're very withdrawn, but I don't think there's anything to it." Terrible. And at that time, I imagined her suffocating, pinned to the floor, and no one could help her. They didn't listen to me when I wanted to talk, and now they listen, but it's too late. When the sixth victim disappeared, the feds came to the school. Secret services, dogs, journalists. I remember one reporter asking, "Are you afraid that the killer could be a student?" And the principal said, "I don't think so. Our students are children, and children are not capable of such things." I stood in the crowd, right in front of him, and laughed, inside, so loudly that this laughter hummed in my ears. And you know what the scariest thing is? I began to believe that I was not alone, that there are dozens of us like this. They just haven't made up their minds yet. You read this and, perhaps, hope for a denouement. That I was caught, that I repent. Number, I am still here, at school, walking these same corridors. I look at these same faces. I see the teachers shaking, the parents taking their children early. It makes me happy. I like that they are afraid, that I have become a shadow in their heads. And if someone disappears again, they will look at each other, look for someone to blame, but they will not find, because now I am everywhere, in every classroom, in every window, in every nightmare. I have started something new. Now I do not choose by memory anymore. I choose by look. Whoever looks too long becomes the next target. This is the rule. It is fair. If you want to know if there will be a sequel, there will be, until someone guesses who I am, or until I myself want to be caught. Now, maybe you are reading this thinking that you can stop me. What will you say to someone? Show the notebook. Try. Maybe I am already nearby. Maybe you were the one reading this out loud during recess. Or maybe you were just another one who looked where they shouldn't. You won't understand who I am until it's too late. Look closer. Listen to the silence. If you hear breathing, it's not the wind. It's me. And you're next. I remember how everything changed. School became different. The atmosphere was tight around the throat, like a noose. Everyone became suspicious of everyone. Best friends turned away from each other. Teachers were afraid to stay after school. Cameras at the entrances, metal detectors, guards with batons and bulletproof vests. They surrounded themselves with the illusion of protection. But I walked past them every day, with a smile, with evil under my skin, with a future plan in my head. You have no idea what it feels like to control fear, to see how every look becomes anxious, how every step echoes with mistrust. I became a part of this school, like a virus that goes unseen. I wasn't hiding. They just didn't notice me. Do you think I felt like I'd gone too far after the eighth murder? Number. That was exactly what I was waiting for. Each one was a step closer to my real goal. You see, I wasn't just killing. I was creating a legend, a story that would be discussed for years, a figure without a name, a face without features. They called me the ghost of the school. I read about it online, heard it on the radio, saw journalists arguing on live TV. Is that a student or one of the staff? And at that moment, I was sitting at the last desk, in the same classroom, in their shadow, grinning. There was this guy, Max. He was starting to suspect. He didn't know for sure, but he felt it. He looked at me differently. He watched too closely. I saw him studying my backpack, my notes, how he tried to get into my locker one night. He thought he was smarter. I let him dig. I even gave him a false lead. And when he got there, an old warehouse behind the stadium, I was already waiting for him. It all happened quickly. He didn't shout. He just whispered, "Why you? Why you?" I didn't answer. Why? He wouldn't have understood anyway. Neither he nor you. The police intensified the hunt, but the harder they pressed, the freer I became, because I began to disappear from the system. I erased myself from the digital databases. I was no longer a student on paper, even though I sat in class every day. I was there, but I wasn't. Like a ghost. The irony is that no one noticed. Not even the principal, not even his new team. But I wasn't just playing cat and mouse. I was looking for the last one, someone who would change everything. Because there was an emptiness inside me that not even the fear of others could fill. I needed someone who would understand, someone who would look me in the eyes and say, "I see you." But no one could, not one of them, not my parents, not my students, not even those who prayed for me, because all they wanted was for it to end, and I wanted it to begin. Sometimes I went to the library. I took books about maniacs, serial killers, psychological disorders. I read them, studied them, but none of them were like me. Because I was not a product of cruelty, I was a product of silence, a product of indifference. That's scarier. When you're not beaten, not tortured, but simply ignored. When you walk down the hallway and it's as if you don't exist. And then one day you decide to prove that you are. Do you know what's scariest about murder? Not the blood, not the screams, not the victim's gasping breath, and the silence after. When you're alone, when it's all over. When you're standing in an empty locker room, washing away the traces, and you realize you did it, and it didn't change anything. You're still alone. And then you want more. That's when I realized I needed a finale, a great denouement, something that would leave a mark on history forever, a school, a full hall, all the students, all the teachers, and me in the center, not with a knife, not with a gun, but with the truth. I wanted to tell, to expose everyone, so that everyone would know what they did to make me like this. I'd been preparing this for weeks. Projectors, recordings, confessions, found diaries, flash drives planted in backpacks, the voices of the victims. I recorded their breathing, their words, their last phrases. Let them hear. Let everyone hear. Let them witness what they'd done. But someone found out. I don't know who. Maybe you. Perhaps the one reading this now. Everything is torn down now. The building is evacuated. Police are on the perimeter. I am trapped. But I smile, because even if this is the end, it is my end. And when you stand over the body, if they decide to storm, when you see me finally for the first time, notice. When the cameras record my face, when the reporters scream my name, when the country is in shock, I know one thing. I won. Because you will remember forever. And no one will ever be invisible again. They never found my body. They said I was gone. Escaped through an underground tunnel that wasn't on the plans. Some say they saw me on camera, a week later in another state. Others say I staged it all and am now watching them from afar. Or maybe I'm still in this school, disguised, with a new name, with a new face. You who listened to this, who read this far, are you sure you're safe? Check your back, because you'll write the next chapter. The schoolboy maniac has disappeared, but someone is still in the class. Watch to the end, the recording that they tried to delete.